Good afternoon, everyone. Great pleasure to be here. The organizers had requested me to talk about natural disasters, particularly cyclones and floods and pertaining to Bangladesh. What I'll be doing in the next few minutes is try to address why Bangladesh is the most vulnerable to climate change and why climate change is increasing many of these disasters. Extreme events, the impacts, cyclones and floods are case studies, and if time permits, I'll talk about the response, otherwise I'll skip that. In Bangladesh, there are at least 12 coexisting and concurrent impacts of climate change. Bangladesh being extremely flat in the coastal area, one of the largest deltas where the three main river systems, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Meghna, three merges, and the water that flows through Bangladesh, only 8% falls vertically on Bangladesh, 92% comes from outside India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, so whole of Himalayas. So it's sea level, so from the south is sea level rise, from the north is the water coming. Cyclone in one of the major impediments or one of the major disasters, and climate change will increase its intensity and frequency. Definitely intensity, frequency to be discussed. There is another phenomenon called deep penetration of salt water. As cyclone hits the sea level rise, more penetration happens. Then there is erratic rainfall. Flood is the other one. I'll spend a little time on intensity and frequency. Drought, still there. Riverbank erosion. Bangladesh is full of rivers, 350 of them, and very large. Their banks are eroding. Impact on health is enormous. We have got a number of evidences to show that even for sea level rise induced climate, salinity increase is impacting women's health, particularly pregnant women with eclampsia, pre-eclampsia diseases. So food security, water security, migration, which is security for habitat, all that gets threatened by climate change related impacts on top of the extreme events. So Bangladesh is located on the downhill of the mighty Himalayas and between, on the south, turbulent Bay of Bengal as part of the Indian Ocean. Enormous amount of activities goes on there. So you can see Bangladesh on the right and all the water from the Himalayas coming that way. So it's a unique geographical location, dominance of the floodplain. We call this Himalayan drainage ecosystem, where all the water comes as a water tower Himalayas and goes into the Bay of Bengal through Bangladesh, huge amount. Hence, most of the floods that one hears about is mainly due to that. And the glaciers are also melting at a rapid rate, and there are various scientific efforts now to take that. So these are the three major systems that take away Bangladesh. The extreme event that global as a whole has is really, on the top we have the earthquake, tsunami, volcano, which has very little to do with climate change, none. In the bottom, sea level rise and salinity intrusion is exclusively climate change related, and in the middle, flood, cyclone, drought, landslides, heat, cold wave are also climate induced. So there are a large number of phenomena that takes place there. So changes in the magnitude and the coverage of climate changes generates new threats in the region, and the communities have little experience to handle it, but they have to manage the risk and look at it. Temperature is increasing all over, erratic rainfall and cyclones across sea level rise and droughts. So number of disasters have doubled globally, approximately to 200 to 400 per year in the past 2 decades, and 9 out of 10 disasters have linkage to climate change. So these two phenomena, disaster and climate change, they reinforce each other and affect the communities. So this has been the hazards that has been increasing in the world, and this is the information from the reinsurance and the industry who has to pay for lot of that. If you look at your left-hand side, the bottom red line is earthquakes, which is happening. On the other hand, all disasters have jumped asymptotically from the year 1900 to 2000, going up and shooting up. So we are having serious problems. Similarly, in the case of extreme events, that's increasing the cost, and over the last several years, this has showing peaks. As to coming to cyclones, there are huge number of cyclones happening in those ranges of the world. You can locate Bangladesh in the Bay of Bengal. So extreme events, Bangladesh has 4 major hotspots for sea level rise and cyclones at the bottom, flood in the middle, drought on the left, and flash flood on the right. And these are, anything you see colored is a hazard which is overlapping in many cases. Now, sea level rise in Bangladesh, that's the red line is the 1 meter sea level rise line. And that will come, IPCC says, Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, by end of the century, we believe it's between 2075 and 2090, this will be there. And for 1 meter sea level rise, the map of Bangladesh will be, that amount will disappear, which is about 20 million people, their lives at stake. So cyclones will continue, and any lines there are cyclone routes, and the saline zone is penetrated by cyclones, and we'll have extra floods, intensity and frequency. What happens in the last 10 years, these floods that we are talking about is a 20-year event, but in the last 10 years, 2 have already happened, so things are moving at a faster rate than possible. Drought will be there. I will not talk much about it. Any red line there is riverbank erosion displacing millions of people every year. Health impacts will be there, and there will be migration, and we know we have done a lot of research on migration to show how migration will be taking place and how they're moving inside different pressure points. In the hills as well, there will be impacts, but I will not go detail into that. I will skip it. But let me get to the cyclones, where this happens in the coastal area, and that has been one of the cyclones whose storm surge was 6 to 9 meters, and maximum speed was 223 kilometers. So you can imagine a lot of people have been affected. In 1970, about 1.4 million people had died. 140,000 people had died. Now, in cyclones in Bangladesh, the maximum, as time goes, numbers are increasing and maximum wind speed is increasing, while the deaths have decreased dramatically because there has been tremendous, well-organized participatory system involving communities, governments, civil society, local government, Red Cross rescues. It has been one of the best stories on saving human beings by mobilizing population themselves. So a lot is going on, and one cyclone, which was a recent cyclone called Nargis that happened in 2008, 160,000 people died in one night in Myanmar, Burma. If that happened in Bangladesh, our calculation shows 2,000 to 5,000 people would die. So by mobilizing your system properly, you can do wonders and you can do virtually miracles by saving people. However, that is mortality doesn't necessarily reduce your morbidity, which has to be looked after by management better. So cyclone has different phases, and one has to react for different phases. As for most donors and supporters, the people come and it happens and everybody goes away. The ordinary communities are left behind with all the remnants and the diseases and the illnesses and the health problems. In floods, the frequency worldwide is increasing rapidly. In Bangladesh, it's happening quite a bit. And again, there are flood phenomenon, and what is happening is there are causes for flood, but climate-induced event is a big cause, and the total number of floods in chronology is increasing rapidly, and the loss as in Bangladesh alone in millions of dollars, getting into billions, while the number of people dying has been decreasing rapidly by better management of the communities and of the systems. This is a rather set image where we can see that most of the country gets flooded because of all the water coming from outside. And the maximum of these show that as time goes, that will be shifted. So basically, there has been increase in the water flow in the flooding regions, and flood events will increase both in terms of intensity, and there will be flood depth is also increasing. So basically what we are saying is climate change is happening, global warming and anthropogenic effects are taking place, and these are going to give the ice melt, snow melt, floods, drought, all that is leading to disaster. Poverty is rampant, 160 million people in 154,000 square kilometers, one of the densest population. People are doing wonderful things. Still, as climate change goes higher, what will happen? The key question here is food security, nutrition. What does it mean? The people are producing their food, trying to get to nutritional security. Every time a disaster comes and hits them, they go down the hill. So it's a fight against that. On the question, finally, what is going to be seen in the forward? The global food that is produced by the farmers, half of them are non-literate. Where do they get the knowledge? They got the knowledge from their ancestors, their indigenous practices, but that happens over a long period of time. The rate at which climate change is coming, it will be much faster than the rate at which this knowledge accumulation by ordinary communities can take place. Consequently, if there is a knowledge gap, then there will be a food gap, which will mean a nutritional gap, which will mean disaster 10 times more than anything we have seen ever. Thank you.